This snapping motion isn't from the forearm muscle itself, but from your fingers and palm gripping the racket, causing it to accelerate. Grip and accelerate. Alright, let's talk about active power generation versus using your opponent's pace. First, we'll cover active power. Active power generation is when you take a full backswing to generate all the force yourself. Using your opponent's pace means using a compact backswing, especially when you're rushed for space, and redirecting the ball's energy by accelerating after making contact. Essentially, a powerful shot has two forces. The first is the stored energy from your backswing meeting the ball. The second force is generated after impact. When combined, you get two distinct power sources in one stroke. This is the difference between generating power by loading up and generating power by countering. Let me ask you, if you could only choose one, which stroke is more powerful? The one with active power generation or the one using the opponent's pace? The answer is always active power generation. So when you have the choice, you should always choose to generate your own power. So, when do you use your opponent's pace? If I'm in a perfect position with plenty of time, I'm definitely using my own active power. But if the ball comes to my body or an awkward spot, my only option is to use its pace and counter. I see two common problems with amateur players. Some don't know how to actively generate power even when they're in position. Others try to use a full, active swing even when they're on the move and out of position. Think about it like this: if you take a large backswing against an incoming ball, your forward motion collides with the ball's forward motion, which dramatically increases your chance of making an error. When you stay closer to the ball, your control over the power is much higher. This applies to your shots, too. For instance, after you serve, if your footwork isn't ready but you still try a huge backswing while moving, there are too many variables. You'll miss most of the time. When you're forced to move, especially a large step, or if your anticipation is slow, you must not take a big backswing. Instead, focus on making contact first, then accelerating. This shot will be much more consistent. Now, if I serve with heavy spin and my opponent returns a slow, high ball, that's the perfect opportunity to use active power generation. However, if your opponent pushes long and fast, and you feel the ball's speed is overwhelming your setup time, you cannot take a large backswing. Avoid creating a direct collision with the ball's power. Against a fast ball, this will only get you jammed. In slow motion, a big backswing followed by a jammed contact makes the rest of your follow-through completely ineffective. So, against fast balls, heavy spin, or wide angles, shorten your backswing significantly. Get closer to the ball and focus on releasing your power after the point of contact. This is how you'll improve your consistency. You don't take a full backswing on every ball, and you don't block every ball. You must adapt to the situation. For fast, spinny, wide-angled backspin balls, stay close to your contact point. The same applies to topspin, unless you're far from the table. From a close to mid-distance, if the opponent's ball is slow, high, not very spinny, and in a good position, that's when you load up with a bigger backswing for maximum power. Using the opponent's pace generates less power, but it offers much higher consistency. Let me demonstrate. From a fixed position against a standard backspin ball, I use my stored energy to generate power. Now, if the ball is sent wide and I use the same full swing, my contact will be poor and I won't brush the ball properly. If I try to drive forward with that same motion, the ball will likely go into the net. This is because my large backswing is too slow for a fast or spinny ball. By the time I make contact, my stroke is incomplete. An incomplete stroke means an incomplete follow-through, which is why the ball goes into the net. Or, you might be too late to brush the ball properly, which also results in hitting the net. In this situation, my priority is to not get jammed. I need to use the ball's pace to loop it. See how much more compact the stroke is? but the quality of the shot hasn't dropped by much. Your first priority should be consistency and getting the ball on the table. Power comes second. Otherwise, you won't have time to recover. The same principle applies to the backhand. I love using my opponent's pace on my backhand loop because it's so reliable. Opponents often push their best shots to my backhand. When they push very heavy and fast, I can't use a full backswing to lift it. So, I meet the ball early and use its energy to drive it back. When the ball comes fast, I focus entirely on brushing it. The faster their push, the spinnier my loop, because I don't have to worry about forward momentum, only spin. This makes my spin very pure. If they send a slow ball, this same flick motion might go long. You must decide whether to use active power or counter power based on the game situation. This is the key to accelerating through the ball effectively. Of course, if your footwork and anticipation are excellent, you can still use a full backswing. It all depends on your technical ability and the situation at hand. The common amateur mistake is a backswing that's too big, which leads to a soft contact. Modern loop technique requires the backswing to stay close to your body, not far out to the side. Keep it near your thigh, hip, and torso. Then, accelerate into the ball at contact. You want to focus your power on the forward drive and acceleration after contact, not on a long, drawn-out backswing. When you pull your arm far back, you are much more likely to have a weak contact with the ball. This softness happens because when the opponent's ball jams you, your instinct is to recoil, not to hit through it, which leads to errors. So you instinctively just touch the ball, you feel jammed, your brushing is ineffective, you can't drive forward, and you make a mistake. In today's game, especially on the forehand, the point isn't to eliminate the backswing, but to keep it close to your body. This allows you to use your body's kinetic chain effectively. It also ensures you have enough time to complete the entire follow-through. If a forehand loop gives you only 0.3 seconds, a big backswing will eat up 0.2 seconds, leaving you only 0.1 for contact and follow-through. But if you keep your backswing compact and close to your body, you can fully execute the post-contact part of the stroke. A large backswing makes you late, and you won't finish the motion. This makes your brushing and arm wrap ineffective. Your form might look good, but you will still make mistakes. Many amateurs take a huge backswing for more power, but you should keep it compact and use your hip rotation to drive your arm. Secondly, this gives you more time for the second half of your stroke, allowing for a complete follow-through. Post-contact acceleration is about how you drive the power forward after you've made contact and started to push through the ball. Some say it's fingers and wrist, but those are for brushing and spin, not for generating core power. Post-contact power comes from your arm, both forearm and upper arm, driving forward after contact. You must drive your arm through the ball, and that power comes from your hip driving your shoulder. You have to engage your hip. Rotate the hip, drive the shoulder, and then the arm can extend and drive through the ball. Even with almost no backswing, I can generate significant power just by making contact. How is that possible? It's the purpose of hip rotation. Standing still and just using your arm is a push. Rotating your hip to drive forward is a send. That's real power generation. Keeping the backswing close to your body is to ensure you can fully execute the forward drive after contact. Right now, your follow-through is too much of a wrap. Driving forward and wrapping are two different actions. Finish the forward drive in front of your chest, not up by your head. Drive the power forward, you want to meet the ball head-on. Feel that power coming from the hip, driving the shoulder to make solid, forward contact with the ball. The key is keeping the backswing close to your body. A backswing that's too far away will get you jammed by the ball. Once you're jammed, it's too late to execute the rest of the stroke properly. It becomes an ineffective motion. Why rotate the hip? Without hip rotation, your arm is here. With rotation, your arm moves forward, creating much better forward momentum. So why do I talk about driving and then wrapping? Look, the first step is the forward drive. The second step, the arm wrap, isn't an active motion. It's the braking mechanism after you drive forward. You use acceleration to complete this braking motion. It's not about consciously trying to wrap your arm perfectly, it should feel like a quick snap. How do you achieve that instantaneous snap? By gripping the racket firmly at impact. Squeeze the handle. Don't overfocus on the wrap, because if you think wrap at contact, you'll forget to drive through the ball. If you drive first and then wrap, the wrap is mostly a result of momentum. There's no time for a full, deliberate wrap. For a loop, the forward drive is more important than the wrap. In fact, you can get the ball on the table with just a forward drive. The arm wrap is to add stability and control. You can think of this wrap as a second acceleration, a very compact forearm snap after the initial forward drive. This snapping motion isn't from the forearm muscle itself, but from your fingers and palm gripping the racket, causing it to accelerate. Watch, everyone. Grip and accelerate. Grip and accelerate. Grip and accelerate. It's a process of accelerating by gripping the racket. If you master this post-contact acceleration, you will make fewer errors and maintain high-quality shots. So, after contact, I have 3 points of acceleration. First is brushing for spin. Second is driving forward. And third is accelerating into the wrap by gripping the racket. That's all you need. I'm emphasizing this because so many players are too slow to get back in position after the serve to use a full backswing. If you're late, just focus on this post-contact acceleration to hit a quality loop. Your recovery, anticipation, and footwork are slower, so when you arrive late to the ball, you must use a compact stroke focused on post-contact acceleration, not a long, flowing professional-style swing. A long swing when you're late means you won't have time to complete the stroke. Everyone, don't consciously wrap your arm. After you drive forward, that final part of the motion is a grip and snap inward, not a forearm pull. Thinking wrap forearm leads to a large, slow motion. Players try too hard to complete the wrap, causing their elbow to fly out and the stroke to become unstable. This deliberate wrapping causes errors. Furthermore, when you focus on wrapping, you tend to do it at contact, which means you miss the forward drive. This makes your loop feel weak and difficult. Amateurs don't have the same elite footwork or anticipation as pros. That's why you should practice post-contact acceleration. It's more practical for your game. With this technique, you can maintain shot quality even when moving across the whole table. Normally, you'd miss 1 or 2 shots out of 8 on the run, but this method keeps you consistent. This is a very common issue. Players load up, they swing hard, but their hand is loose at the finish. The first major forehand loop problem is a large backswing that causes soft contact. The reason for the soft contact isn't that you're weak, it's that your first sensation at contact is the ball jamming you, so you instinctively soften your hand. So why do you get jammed? Because your backswing is too big. By the time your racket reaches the ideal contact point, the ball is already beside or even behind you. Against faster balls or when you're moving, you're almost always making contact while jammed. You are not meeting the ball out in front. This is why so many players constantly feel like they are getting jammed on their shots. If you feel jammed, check your backswing. It's definitely too far from your body. A wide backswing takes 0.2 seconds to reach the ball, a compact one takes 0.1 seconds, putting you at the ideal contact point. So, first solution, keep your backswing close to your body. This will help you create a good contact point even against fast balls and while moving. Second, when you create proper space, you have time to brush the ball. When you're jammed, you have no time for friction. Even if your hand isn't soft, your timing for brushing the ball is too late, and you get overpowered. So, once you learn to keep your backswing compact and meet the ball, you need to drive through the ball as you brush it, not just push it forward. The instant you make contact, your fingers should engage, and then your forearm continues to drive forward. This should be one fluid motion. It all has to happen in an instant. As your arm is driving forward to find the ball, at the exact moment of contact, you must execute the brushing and drive actions simultaneously. Here's a common mistake: do not let your forearm stop moving forward at the point of contact. While you are driving forward, you must also be brushing the ball. While you're finding the ball, and after you brush it, your forearm has to help your hand and wrist carry the momentum forward. Don't stop after brushing. The forearm must keep driving forward as you brush. This means you can't just brush the ball in place. That will cause the ball to slip. If your follow-through is slightly late, the ball will hit the net and have no forward drive. So, we find the ball, brush it, and after driving through contact, the forearm immediately continues forward. Actually, your ball speed is already quite fast with just that motion. Then, after the forward drive, we add the final piece we talked about, the inward snap. Snap it inward, snap it inward. How do you do it? After driving forward, you snap your hand inward. Not by pulling your forearm to your chest, but by snapping it toward the space between your eyebrows. That's the feeling. The power is from your hand. Your palm is driving the racket inward with force. Because after the forward drive, it's already a topspin shot. That final snap is where the extra burst of power comes from. This is what's known as the second acceleration. The key to this snapping motion is concentrating all the energy from your body into that single, final point. Don't let the energy dissipate. After you swing, you need to brake, otherwise your whole body will be unstable. So you finish the stroke and stop crisply. This makes the entire motion more stable. A stable motion results in a stable shot, because the ball is incredibly light. The reason you make errors when you try to hit hard is because on that final snap, you fail to concentrate your power and stabilize your racket face. This causes the racket to wobble at impact, which leads to the error. Look, the reason I can hit so hard and still be consistent is because I can stop my motion dead. There's no wobble in my elbow, shoulder, body, or arm. You have to be stable at the end of the stroke to be ready for the next ball. When you're just playing soft, it doesn't matter. You can be as unstable as you want and the ball will still go on. But when you apply power, there is zero room for instability. Let me show you an unstable shot. If my elbow wobbles, or my wrist, or my shoulder, all of these will cause an error. So, for that final inward snap after the forward drive, amateur players must learn to concentrate the power from their arm, fingers, and wrist into one solid point. I'm focusing on this because at our recent training camps, players kept asking, why is my loop good when I'm standing still, but I can't hit it when I move? So, for the amateur player with slower footwork and anticipation, this is the most practical solution. Of course, if you have great physical conditioning and a professional training environment, you absolutely need to learn active power generation, because it combines the pre-contact and post-contact power sources. But when you're in a difficult situation, you must rely on post-contact acceleration.